Yep. I can't tell if we're going yet, but can you guys check on YouTube? Yeah, I thought let's see. It says we're live on the top right for me. Perhaps.
I can see it. I'll be one of our viewers.
You can see it?
I'm one of our viewers now.
All right, there we go. We got stuff now. All right, guys. What's up, future fighters? Zach here, and what we hope to be a regular YouTube event. In hopes that we can maybe stay a little bit on topic, I want to say a couple of ground rules. First, to keep these events kind of on track, I don't want to keep them. I want to keep them around an hour long, which makes sense, I feel, because as soon as they go longer than an hour, you just get off topic so easy. And second,
last call.
I want to highlight that at the end of the calls, we're going to take like 10, 15 minutes maybe to do Q&A. So if you guys have questions during the live stream, we'll see if we can answer. If you guys just want to know our feels on a card or something in a certain deck, ask us. And if we don't answer the question there, we'll answer it later on in another live stream. So with introductions, we're missing two people. I guess first, Justin Gee is having some technical problems. For whatever reason, his mic sucks. Mr. Juan Mango is busy with volleyball, so he's probably going to jump in 30 minutes late too. And then we have Mr. Brian Ashbrook.
Hello.
And Mr. Alexander Masood. And of course me. Yeah, the Kaiseron Hero Role Player forever. So,
also the Master.
Yeah, so I guess the main topic we have for today is kind of discussing the Kaiseron deck. So I mean, a lot of people going into Assault of the Omni Lords they were taking extra close looks at this generic card called Barbed Wire, saying that Kaiseron is dead as we know it because of one generic card that everyone will play in their sideboards. So I mean, first we got our resident Hero World expert Alexander Masood. What are your opinions on Barbed Wire and what it's done to your deck?
They were either stopping your Kaiserion or they were stopping X-Blazer, right? Because it pulled from the same resource to stop them. You know, the shield. Once you got your Subvert off and you had the multi-attack going, you kind of could just do whatever you want. You could attack willy-nilly, and not a lot of things could really respond to you at that point. Now that we've got Barbed Wire, you cannot always guarantee that your Kaiserion is going to be swinging on the Subvert turn, right? What this leads to is situations where you're going to have to rely on your monsters.
Apparently, there's no sound coming from you right now, so we're trying.
None at all?
No, at least that's what someone's telling me right now on the live stream. I turned you up. Maybe that was the control the mute button just. So I actually muted you, but it didn't show up.
So that entire speech meant nothing.
Yep.
Well,
Nothing at all.
All right, am I? Can you hear me now? Do I need to take my headphones off and turn this on speaker? What do you need from me? Can you hear me?
yeah. I think people can hear you now because I turned you up.
Because you actually muted me because I did such horrible puns.
Yes.
Is this revenge for my punniness? Is this my punishment?
Yep. But people can hear you now.
Yeah, you were not able to hear.
All right. Quick recap of what I just said. Before Assault of the Omnilords and before the 100 Demons Extra Booster, very few decks had a lot of responses to Kaiserion. Generally, all the Kaiserion decks were pretty equal except for how they dealt with the mirror match. As long as you had 4 Kaiserions, 4 Call Super Machines, any combination of 9 of the Animal Buddies, and 2 to 3 Impacts, plus 4 Shields, and 2 to 3 Hypers, you kind of just did what you wanted, you know? Now your build is actually really important with how you deal with things. Because of Barbed Wire, you cannot guarantee that Kaiserion's going to be swinging. They could tuck Barbed Wire into anything you do during the turn, so you can't spell null it. And even if you do spell null it, that's 2 gauge. It's 2 gauge and a card out your hand, and it's a very difficult situation to be in. And it's not even, like, spell nulling a Barbed Wire hurts because it's not the same as if you're attacking and you're spell nulling a shield. Because you can spell null a Barbed Wire, and then they still drop a shield. And congratulations, you're out 2 gauge and a card in your hand, and the odds of having still 2 more spare gauge and another spell null in hand, and then having 2 more gauge to use the impact for game is very, very slim considering all the answers in the meta right now.
Mm.
Now, the other card I want to talk about, well, 2 cards actually, the 2 shades of the same card, are Naga and Mass Soldier. They are, Naga is specific to 100 Demons and Danger World, but Mass Soldier is generic. And Mass Soldier, I think, is not getting as much props as it really should be. Mass Soldier is a generic size 0, 1/1/1. Its skill is counter. You can discard this card from your hand and pay 1 gauge. If you do, your opponent's item loses 2k power, 2 critical, and 2 defense until the end of your next turn. Or until the end of your turn. So you do this when I'm attacking with my Kaiserion. You cut down on my crit that I'm hitting you with. You cut down on my attack power. You also cut down on my defense. Normally, I'll be a 5k defense. You cut me down to 3. That's huge. And you cut me down to 3, not only during this turn, but during your turn, when you can drop anything and start hitting over my 3. That means now I need to start maxing out on Shark. I need to max out on Shark so I can try to compensate for that defensive hit. It makes you have to think a lot more and keep track of what's going on. You know.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you stop for a second and see if Justin's actually here to see if he can talk. Or not.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can finally hear you.
Oh, we hear you! Justin G
All right.
has arrived! The champ is in the house!
All right, so now that we have other Hero World players in the discussion, so you were talking about some of the cards that hate on you. So, I mean, did Barbed Wire specifically cause you to change your deck up? Have you like changed up your Animal Buddies for your the heart of your Kaiserion?
As for me, I did change up some of the things because originally I was doing 4 Tiger and sorry, I just saw Justin in that. 4 Tiger, 3 Suburb, and 2 Shark because I was running a build focused on getting Tiger on the board to attack as a 2 crit monster and getting X-Blazer on the board so I can get multiple swings in with that, and I didn't even care if you killed anything because You know, I'd fish it back out with the new promo card we got, or I would just add it to Soul whenever I wrote Kazarian. And now I do 4 shark and 4 bird and 1 tiger. Actually, I bounce the tiger to the sideboard because I do a size 3 focus build using gun veils because of his 8k defense and using the size 3s that are very beefy, so it's hard to get them off the field because I need my monsters to actually do a lot of the hitting. At this point, in some matchups when my opponents see all of their answers, I presume Kazarian is just going to be there for the finisher.
So right now we're saying that the animal buddies, the trifecta for you has been turned into 4 bird and 4 shark, but 1 tiger because the penetrate's no longer as necessary because of the use of gun veils as being the big size 3 beater 828 double attacker. Mm-hmm. And you just want to maximize the other zeros you can play alongside it?
Yes.
Okay.
I use gun veils and Zeldine, who's the size 3 free to call 2 to ride 636, which is pretty beefy stats, and it's a good backup ride with its native 3 crit.
So my question to you is, so clearly you went all in on bird still, and a lot of the argument for a bird against barbed wire is that as soon as, you've already mentioned this, as soon as you activate bird, they barb wire.
I maxed out on bird because it's a 0 and it has 3k attack power. It's really surprising the number of things that can actually push off the board.
Oh yeah, 3 is a super relevant number.
And being able to get the setup where I have Kazarian, I have a gun veils, and I have a bird means I'm gonna be able to push through a lot of things, and I have to play the control game. For me, Kazarian isn't I don't drop Kazarian with the intention or the expectation to attack with it every turn. Kazarian for me is a means to an end because since all of these things, these answers like Mass Soldier and Barbed Wire, they're so cost efficient. They're much more cost efficient than the destruction spells. I don't see the destruction spells as often, so I literally just get 3 Soul in Kazarian because of the threat of the 4 crit, which means they're going to use the resources to make sure Kazarian can't attack. But because he has 3 Soul, my impact will deal 5 damage.
Alright, so I know Justin's also a Kaiseron player, judging from the last DMV results for us, the DMV Cup, where he beat you in the finals, right?
Okay.
So
yeah, I knew that was going to come up.
Let's hear, have you made any changes based off of barbed wire, or is it still standard protocol for you?
For me, I just changed the deities that I use. Instead, now I use 4 shark, where I was totally against shark before. But it's now I have to kind of, wait out my opponent, so I want to beef up my defense as much as possible. I also use the set spell now at 3, also for defense and offense. With Body of Steel and monsters with move, I try to just drag out the game as long as possible against my opponent instead of rushing them to death. And opposite to Masood, I only use 2 bird now because just using the ability can get me caught in barbed wire. So I kind of try to push for the Gal formation, and I maxed out Tiger still just because he could fit on the field with my X lasers and Gonzala. Love Gonzala because he can't be destroyed by effects.
The 5K is pretty relevant too for clearing most stuff.
Well, and he's also great in the mirror match, and he's a 6 to a 7K beat stick, depending on how many set spells I drop. So it makes the deck overall super defensive.
So, for you, I think I heard 4 sharks still, right?
Yeah.
So, have either of you guys considered that janky metamorph card where you can throw your tiger or your beast buddies into the drop and then use the new promo to pick up other brave machines?
Yes, I actually use 2 of those now.
I'm working on that myself. I've had some issues with testing it. I was testing 2 to 3 of it. I actually have just recently taken out in order to put in more draw cards because I felt like I needed ways to add more resources to hand.
Yeah. So do you still use the prepped and okay to launch in your Kaiseron, Justin?
I knocked it down to 2.
Okay. Because I've seen a lot of people they start X-Blazer and then just go into Kaiseron later maybe just to try and push off the 4 damage instead of the 2 to 3 early game.
Yeah, ideally. But it's like in my playtesting, I got Kaizurion like early game every time, so I wasn't able to test around other stuff.
Yeah, at that point, if you have a Kaiseron in hand and you choose to intentionally ride X-Blazer, I feel like at that point, because of the decreased defense of X-Blazer and the fact you have to pay a life for its skill, you're kind of just asking for trouble at that point.
Yeah, 5K defense on an item is very important. That's one of the things that make a lot of the Hero World superhero monsters so good, especially guys like Desium. That 7K body really doesn't matter if your opponent hits you with barbed wire just because it's 7K and it decreases damage.
Yeah, Desium actually really survived the release of these 2 cards really well.
I'll drop it down to 4K.
Okay, listen. You and your Naga can go sit in the corner, all right?
Well, I mean, Naga's an interesting point, though, because he also brings the same support to 100 demons, whether or not they actually decide on using him in their builds.
I mean, they should because of the size 0.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like, I was playing around with an Anson deck recently where I think it could be pretty useful just based off of the Anson, the Starved Yamigeto, and then sacking them during your turn to draw extra cards with that Darkness Dragon World set spell, or the spell it. Kill dudes to draw dudes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love that card.
Naga's a very interesting combo because the 3K defense, the 3K attack drop is really, really painful. And also because Naga calls itself to the field, it's something they can attack with. What happens a lot of time, as Brand will attest to, he will Naga, and then at that point, because of the -3 defense that he gives to my Kaizerion, if I don't have a Sharkened Soul, that Naga can attack by itself next turn.
Naga swinging at your face.
I mean, we can also point out the new box topper too, right? The Battle Deity Robo Dark Wolf.
Yeah, Dark Wolf
has some pretty solid generic hit against Kaiseron, even maybe more so than Barbed Wire, just because if you have a deck that can already run off of Gauge, this card would just auto hate for 3 Gauge to destroy your items, right? So this is a card that now all decks have access to.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like the Battle Deities are like supposed to be a hard counter just in how they're designed for not Dimensional Rebels, Brave Machines.
Well, do you think that maybe that card's a better sideboard than Barbed Wire? Or do you think that Barbed Wire's better just because if you don't draw that card right away, you still have an option to protect yourself?
Personally, this is my personal opinion. You can take it however you feel it. I feel that because of the number of item-based decks in the meta right now, there is no reason to not main deck at least 2 Barbed Wire.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That is my, like, because, I mean, Mass Soldier and the Dire Wolf, those are hardcore against Kaizerion, and Mass Soldier is cool because it's a 0. It's a generic 0 that's not exactly horrible, you know, against other matchups. And Dire Wolf, it can be really costly to use, but for decks that don't already have destruction, it fits really well and it solves a lot of problems. But Barbed Wire being essentially a shield, like at that point, because it doesn't actually nullify the attack, you can do it to Excalibur.
You could do it to the, what do you call it, the Infinite Cradle or Infinite Armaments Cradle.
Yes, you can.
That gives it to, like, this is an interesting segue because, I mean, with the talk of Kaiseron and Barbed Wire, like, Brian, you're the hardcore Danger World player. I mean, has it changed your deck at all? Because I notice you're not using as many of the ace cards anymore. Is that an impact because of barbed wire, or is that just a style change?
It's more of the overall meta right now. You have to build more aggressive, and the aces take at least 2 turns to set up and get your weapon to have all of the aces you need. And it's much better to just be able to play Cradle, put a Rick Do under Cradle, call a size 2, call a size 1, and just push for damage.
Mm.
Instead of trying to have to wait to get those ace pieces into your soul.
Yeah, because I guess right now you have a deck profile going up on my channel sometime in the next week. A nice plug there. But your deck doesn't go to 3 soul as easily anymore because you don't run cards like the Impact.
I rarely do.
Gargoyles or whatever. So I mean, the threat is still there. I mean, barbed wire comes at a good time because I hate the Danger World matchup. It is so annoying. You can get a weapon that swings for 5 to 10k very easy. But it's scary. But I guess an interesting point, because we know Kaiseron. I mean, people have been talking Kaiseron for months. Mm-hmm. They know that Kaiseron can get really big defensively, offensively with sharks and whatnot. But I mean, I think an interesting perspective that hasn't really been talked as much is how you fight against Kaiseron. Because there are a lot of decks before where it was mostly you only saw like Danger World with the best matchup because you get things like Iblis or you get a Cradle with the Ogre. But there are so many more options now for the decks to combat it. And is it also because of cards like Barbed Wire, or is it because like 100 Demons and some of the other new sets like the Dragon Knight's got a lot of options with Ozzy now that allows them to excel their draws, excel their gauge. Yeah, barbed wire that's kind of like a protective curtain against Kaiseron. But I mean, even with all that with Kaiseron, you still have that really, really annoying impact in Kaiseron to deal at least 5 damage quite easily. And it's really like Kaiseron only has to attack twice for you to get game.
Well, that's the thing. I feel like because of not just barbed wire and mass soldier, but the new stuff coming out that each world is getting, the game is accelerating. At this point in time, though, honestly, as much as people complain about that impact being broken or whatever, or dealing 5 damage, I will admit when it came out, yes, it was completely overpowered because you swing first turn Kaiserion, that's 3 damage, so they're at 7. At that point, you poke with anything for 2 crit and you impact per game.
So
right?
So are you saying that you don't main deck a lot of copies of it anymore, or you still play the same?
No. Pause. Pause. What I'm saying is that impact is borderline one of the few things that keeps us really relevant. Because
that's true.
If my opponent can almost guaranteed say that my weapon, my primary gimmick, my item, my giant robot isn't attacking, how am I winning the game? How am I winning the game is like that. For me, it's I get 3 soul on the Kaiserion. Since they're not going to be running destruction, I don't have to worry about that. I don't commit anything else to Kaiserion's soul. All my other zeros I call to the field and use as attackers, and I let my gun veils and my zeros and my or Zeldine if I don't have gun veils, but I let them keep pushing and pushing and pushing because my opponent's using their resources to keep Kaiserion locked down. And at that point, I let my monsters push my opponent to 5, and then I can impact for game.
So, I mean, I know last week you were playing against some interesting decks. I know that there was a Wizard deck that dropped down. How did Wizards do up against Kaiseron for you?
It burned. Honestly, that was... I made a lot of changes to the deck since then. But the biggest thing that was problematic for me was just how fast they burned for damage. And their answers, like, the guy did that, what was it, oops or whatever, whenever I rode Kaiserion in one game.
Yeah, that's really... there's cards like Osmodai, right, who's got that 10k defense.
Yes, and that honestly, that's something I need to work on playing against, is, like, a mover's irrelevant as soon as they drop Omnidai. You're not saving it The plus 5k defense card is completely irrelevant.
Yeah, because you can't even get over it.
Counterattack it.
And if I try to link attack over it, he's going to counterattack the monster that I use to link attack. And like normally in those kind of situations, where my opponent has, like, let's say I'm up against Raging Spirits, and they've got Billion Knuckle on the field, right? And I'll link attack with my monsters to get over Billion Knuckle, and they do something to save the Billion Knuckle, right? I can throw down my plus 5k defense card on whichever one of my monsters I want to save in order to make sure they counterattack the other one. Like if I'm link attacking with, let's say, something and a count on, I'll plus 5k defense the other one, so he's going to hit the count on, and I won't care because I'm getting count on back, right? That strategy doesn't work against Omnidai because 50k.
50k clears everything.
Because 50k, 3 crit, penetrate. Oh, okay, I gotta discard 2 cards and pay a gauge or whatever in order to keep it on the field.
That's paying the gauge and discarding the cards in the wizard focus build, where discarding those cards gets you gauge and cards.
Yes, and where discarding those cards gets you closer to a grandfather clock. Literally, I get grandfather clock for game. Off of me trying to rush past his Asmodai and him discarding to save Asmodai in order to get closer to the grandfather clock cost.
Which is pretty painful, especially since the whole idea is to just kind of swing in there once, get you down to grandfather clock in range, so I could either Asmodai, weapon, ping for 1 attack, ping for 1 attack, you're dead.
That weapon is honestly one of the things that hurts really badly. The fact that the weapon can just rest, ping for damage. And what he ended up doing to me was, I thought I could survive the grandfather clock turn, till he went weapon, rest, ping for damage, play another weapon, rest, ping for damage.
So have you tried, so what changes, so I understand fully well how annoying the wizard deck can be. What changes have you tried to make to combat the wizard deck? I mean, understandably, more sharks would obviously get you over to be able to swing at cards like Asmodai by itself. But that's not even counting the wizard that reduces your critical and attack and defense stats, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Biggest thing for me was I took out the. That's actually why I took out the card, the promo card that lets you fish out the drop, because I had that in hand, and I think it was game 3. I couldn't see any animal buddies. Could not see anything. I could not get enough. I had it. I needed 1 more card in soul to be able to impact per game, but I couldn't get it. And I could fish stuff out the drop, but I literally hadn't seen anything. Whereas putting It's About Time I Got Serious means, like, if I charge and draw into It's About Time I Got Serious in late game when I'm at 3 life and my opponent has an Asmodai on the board and he's at 5 life and I have 2 animal buddies and I have 4 gauge and I have my impact in hand, I can just go for it, you know? There's a chance I'm going to draw into the last piece.
Yeah, I guess some of the annoying parts with wizards, though, is they do have some form of life gain, right? So it's
yes,
pretty...
they do. And that was honestly something I was on the receiving end of. And also, one really big thing for me was I got my hands on more barbed wire. Now I'm main decking 2 barbed wire. And here's where things get really tricky, though, with barbed wire in the wizard matchup. There is no play timing at the beginning of the main phase for the opponent, right?
Correct.
Which means if he enters main phase and literally the first thing he does before he plays anything else is rest the weapon to deal the damage, barbed wire is dead.
Yeah, I would. Barbed wire seems like a worthless card in that matchup.
No,
Yeah.
because half the time he didn't barbed wire until halfway through his turn.
Well, if you do that once, though, I feel like your opponent's automatically going to learn.
Hey, you might only need it to do it once.
Yeah.
Literally, I only have to do it once. Or in like if I had barbed wire in my hand on that turn when he grandfather clocked me, right? If he goes burn for damage, play another one, I can barb wire the other one.
How can you barbed wire the other one?
Isn't there
No.
on
Nope.
entry?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
Then, well, okay. Well, you know what? Completely ignore the last 2 minutes of my conversation.
Just take out the barbed wire from your side.
Play Magic World. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Justin, have you been doing any play testing with Kaiseron against various decks?
The Omni deck. The Omni deck with barbed wire mained at about 3 or 4.
Okay. How annoying is that? Because
It's very annoying. It's
they
very annoying, but you can still win because of the impact, and X-Blaze are on the right or left. So it's like barbed wire essentially how I play the deck now. It's just like a nullify for them because I don't commit to the bird.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, because what is it? The 5th Omnis, they got a lot of toolboxing now from the drop, right? Where they have the item hate dude and the, I think it's the size 2 guy who can bring back a 5th Omni from the drop zone, plus all their self-inflicting damage cards that allow them to just blow shit up.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I wanted to attack your item destruction guy. Oh, psych, I take a damage first. You attack me. So I destroy your weapon once, and then you deal damage to me. I destroy your weapon.
That's why Gonzalo is so good in that matchup. Because it's literally like, I can poke you with the size 1 first. You destroy the size 1 at this point, I don't care. Now, you can't destroy Gonzalo no matter what I do next. So it's like your only option at this point is barbed wire. You barbed wire and I still hit with Gonzalo, I'm going to hit you with the impact. Because now I run the impact at 3 or 4 now, I think.
That's a really good point. So do you still run Reckless Bravery or whatnot with that deck?
No, I don't. Just because it forces me to lose resources when your opponent's already targeting your resources and a Kaiserion matchup. Because if you have barbed wire in hand, all you have to do is take out your opponent's monsters.
Yeah, because I wonder how, I mean, this is super combo-y, that's probably not situational, but how useful is it to get that penetrate damage over center heavy decks with something like that can't be counterattacked?
Well, I mean, I feel like anything that's going to cost you life is a really big problem. Like, with no real life gain for us right now, that hurts. And if you want to gain penetrate, that's what Tiger's for.
So with the current Kaiserion deck, so what do we have for shields? We still have the 4. I've seen through your moves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That 4 of what is it? The Body of Steel or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And how many Mock Ravers are you guys playing now?
I don't have any because I bought some from a guy 2 months ago and I still haven't received them. So yeah.
How many would you be playing?
I'd probably just play 2. Just because there's so much stuff with penetrate and then the gauge issues. And inside too.
Yeah, personally, because before all this stuff dropped, before Assault the Omnilords, I was running 4 Mock Bravers. I was debating budding the card because that was such a good play of your Mock Braver stop the attack and gain a life. But because I play a size 3 focused build, Mock Braver would be a real handicap for me because I try to make sure I always have either a Zeldine or a Gunveils on the field, and calling Mock Braver would mean they have to leave.
All right, so I guess I've been letting the Hero World players dominate the talk a little bit. So maybe I should let Brian do some talking here. So I'm actually not sure what you play besides Danger World, but
that's pretty much all I play.
Well,
so
to be fair, Brian plays whatever we hand him.
Well, that's true too. I remember him playing a Taco Suke deck once too.
I still want to complete that. That deck is so much fun.
But so your perspectives though, with versus the current Kaiseron, what's standard protocol for you? Is this an easy match for you now? Is it still the same kind of like decisive match it was prior to the Assault of the Omnilords?
Well, the Assault of the Omnilord changed nothing for the deck. Really, what was the game changer was Naga. before Naga, you just had to get as many 5K beaters as you could and hope they didn't get Shark and Soul. Because once they got that Shark and Soul, you had to start link attacking.
True, but I mean, you also have the Salamander dude too, right?
Yeah, but again, you don't have as many 6K beaters as you do 5K beaters.
True.
And the big thing is that when Kaiseron's 5K, you can put a soul for Archangel, and then Archangel can swing by himself.
Yeah, just because with the +3, right, for each one in the soul.
Yeah, 5K.
So that's pretty good. So I mean, it's still just Naga that hates, because I think I remember seeing or hearing you guys yell at each other when he drops the Naga. Off the side, it's like, God dang the Naga.
No, see, when he drops one Naga, that's not the problem. The problem is when he perceives, when I'm going to penetrate through his center, and he responds by calling Naga over his center, which makes my attack irrelevant because I lose target. Then this decreases the power at defense and crit of my Kaiserion. And when I stand it back up and try to swing at something else or swing back at Naga, he will drop a second Naga. And then proceed to, on his turn, use Armor Reuse to add the first Naga back into his hand.
Some pretty serious.
Yeah, most of the time, I just call Naga to the center. They have to beat over it. And if they beat over it, I just Armor Reuse back to hand.
Because I know a classic strategy against Kaiserion before all this hate drop form was making sure you link attacked so that you were greater than 5K defense higher than him, just because you basically already negate half of their shields if you're already link attacking for plus 5K.
Well, the problem with that strategy is it doesn't stop the attack, but they still get the counterattack. So it's essentially, I'm just going to kill your monster for free and take the damage.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad trade-off, I mean.
Yeah. Still.
And I know because I've been playing Dungeon World a lot more.
Did you forget your deck?
It's somewheres. But playing that a lot more, I mean, some of the weapons you got now, the swing for 8K by itself. I mean, how annoying is that now? 10K with the link attack from Tetsuya, swinging over Kaiserion for 2 crit, swing again, 1 crit, maybe link attack again with the other dudes for, I don't know, 4 to 5 critical. You double link attack with your weapon, that's 4 crit and 11K. If you don't have the I've seen through your moves, you're already starting to feel it. And plus the one weapon's already got penetrate for against the Mock Raver.
Simple answer. At some point, you barbed wire one of the weapons.
You try and barbed wire one of the weapons.
Simple answer. Just call Naga. Reduce the crit to 0.
Crit to 0. There you go. But I mean, you're still link attacking, right?
Well, to be fair, I personally main deck 2 barbed wire and I side deck 2 mass soldier. And Dungeon World is one of those matchups where I would side in the mass soldier. Also, mass soldier, because I run a size 3 focus deck and mass soldier is a size 0, it's not a bad thing to play anyway. But also, mass soldier being a monster means it can't get spell null, which isn't really relevant in that matchup whatsoever. But that's a plus between that, and that's something that both mass soldier and Naga have. If they go with the link attack with one of their weapons and Tetsuya, I would respond by barbed wiring the other weapon.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I mean, that stops-ish some of their plays at that point, and it helps with dealing with a lot of things because I'll tell you right now, when my opponent drops 2 Tetsuyas and has 2 weapons on the board, that's a really bad turn.
For you or them? Because the 2 Tetsuyas could be good, could be bad. I mean, they're not swinging very high by themselves.
Let's see, 2 crit, 3 crit.
That's if they get over the bodies, though,
7
right?
crit, 10 crit. That's 10 crit if all of the attacks connect.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
But then what is it? The Tetsuya and the weapons, what, 5K slab? That might barely get over once.
That's why we use Death Grip.
Yeah. If you have the gauge for it, though, right?
Yeah, that hurt so much last week.
I was looking at your hand, and I just saw you draw a Devil's Stigma right after everything was dead, and you're like, oh, this is perfect.
Well, I mean, at the same time, doesn't one of the weapons gain power?
Yeah, plus 4,000 power, so it's an 8K 1 crit penetrate weapon.
Yeah.
Right. And
The other
honestly, the other one's a 3, right?
Yeah, it's like a 3 crit, 3K or something.
Yeah, at that point, that setup of, because what's Tetsuya's power, 2?
The 2's power, yeah, it's, wait, what 2?
No, what's Tetsuya's power? It's 2K, right?
I think, yeah, it's like 2K. I remember that was relevant for some reason last week where someone was trying to swing at my Tetsuya, but he couldn't get over it.
Wait, boy! Boy!
Yeah, that
What
probably
couldn't
was
get
me.
over Tetsuya?
2K versus 1K?
Yeah, that was definitely me then.
Yeah,
That
you're
was my buddy.
But the point is, yeah, that to answer your question, the double weapon, double Tetsuya turn is relevant. Because no matter which way they swing that, they can make all of their attacks relevant. It's dirty and it's dumb, but honestly, if they get a setup like that, or even just one Tetsuya on the field with 2 weapons and something else, the number of attacks that can happen at that point are really, really brutal.
Yeah, it's insane because you can't even counterattack some of the weapons, right?
Yeah.
The only thing you can do is play the I can't remember the name, but you pay a life, pay a gauge, destroy your ride target.
Yeah, about that card, remember when I said that paying a life is not really an option anymore?
Well, better than dying, though, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes that paying a life doesn't equate not dying. And I feel that against Dungeon World, they're going to deal so much damage so fast, there are better options.
Well, I mean, that's the problem, though, is that if you can't respond in kind with some kind of defense or rush, then you're going to lose to Dungeon World.
Yeah, I mean, in desperate situations, you can run, it doesn't work. That's the White Dragon Shield clone.
Okay. Or you just run, damage control.
Well, okay. You have to really tailor your build to make damage control really viable for you.
Well, I mean, I understand the fact that, I mean, you're losing that first card for damage control.
Okay, honestly,
so, I mean,
before damage control, I would run Fulgine.
Who?
Size 2, Brave Machine, 524, free to call, ride cost of 1 gauge. When you, the player, are attacked... No, sorry. You can counteract, discard a Brave Machine from your hand. The next time you would be dealt damage, it's reduced by 2.
Oh, I remember you trying to run that card, and I wouldn't let you.
Yeah, well, the problem with it is it doesn't do much, but at the same time, it's still a better answer, I feel, than damage control, for the mere fact that it's got 2 crit, it's a 5-2-4, which aren't bad stats, and like damage control, while it's a set spell, it doesn't take up space on your field. You can drop it without disrupting your field. You're gonna need ways to attack. And yes, if they attack Fulgines and kill it, you can't use it to save yourself all the time. I mean, you can respond to the attack by discarding to prime the effect, but at that point, it's done its job. It ain't an attack.
That card's that's a size 2 slot too, right?
Yeah.
That's a size 2 that's cutting into X-Blazers on your field. It's a size 2 that's cutting into the Gonslaught that could be on your field. I mean,
the hyper-aggro isn't really an option that much anymore. You know what I mean? Like, Justin, you even said it that we have to play defensively now.
Yes, we have to play defensively, but we also have to fill up our field to win now.
Yes, and I mean, it really depends on the matchup. Like, a 5/2/4 that's free to call isn't bad.
It's not bad, but I mean, Brave 4 basically makes all of your 1-gauge dudes free, right?
Ish. The thing is, it only goes off once per turn.
You're gonna call more than one size 2 a turn?
I wasn't referring to size 2s. I mean, just in general. The problem isn't them being free. But what's really great is when you have Brave 4 on the field, you have 1 gauge, and you have the impact in hand, and you call a monster that's free to get the gauge to make the impact live.
I mean, that's what Hyper Energy is for too, though.
But Hyper Energy, again, you run into the issue of Hyper Energy you can only use once per turn. Hyper Energy, you have to see it. And 9 times out of 10, the only way you're going to see it is by doing what?
Call Super Machine.
Yes. which is paying a gauge. And since so many of our resources cost gauge, you're only going to run, 2 to 3 Hyper Energies? Because if you're running 4 Hyper Energies, the number of times you're going to need a monster and charge and draw into a Hyper Energy. I mean, can you back me up on this, Justin?
I mean, yeah, I run Hyper Energy at 3 now. I used to run it at 2.
Yeah.
Well, so, I mean, we're getting a little faded, I think, but I think that we kind of alluded to it with saying that Justin beat Alex in the DMV Cup.
Okay, that was a horrible misplay, and we all know it.
But how does the current mirror match work now? So, I mean, obviously both of you guys are in some form or another. Barbed wire is probably in your main or sideboard, at least 3 copies or something, right?
Yeah.
I main 2.
So how annoying is the mirror match for you guys now?
I mean, if you go first, I still use I'll leave this to you. I think it's that.
Mm-hmm. I'll leave the rest to you?
Yeah, I'll leave the rest to you. So I just try to bulk up as much as possible before the other person does. And focus on penetrate because I don't run Mock Bravers and most of my opponents do. So if you Mock Braver, you're dead.
That's why I don't run Mock Braver. There's too much penetrate. And as I've seen and learned the hard way, Mock Braver is irrelevant against Omni Die. And everyone can tech 1 Omni Die. For me, the biggest thing about the mirror match is how am I building my field effectively? That's my big question I'm always asking myself. And how am I using my gun veils? Because gun veils being a double attacker means if my opponent manages to bulk up or they drop something in the center that I can't get over, or in the mirror match, I just need ways to make constant attacks to run through my opponent's resources.
Body of Steel.
Exactly.
That's why I use Gunzala.
Body of Steel is a really big play. Body of Steel can swing the game. And that's why whenever you talked about some people trying to ride X-Blazer in order to ride off of the extra critical, the extra damage from the burn effect, I kind of laugh at that because congratulations, you're going to be getting hit with a Suburb.
In the mirror match, yeah.
In the mirror match, yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like there are a lot of different ways to go about it, and now the rest of your deck matters.
Yeah, pretty much. Basically, it takes a brain to play Kazurion now.
Yeah, it does.
Throw together a Brave Machine deck and win with it anymore. You actually have to think and time your moves.
Mm-hmm. Especially in the mirror match and against something like 5th Omnis, where they can respond effectively to you dealing them damage.
Yeah, I hate the 5th Omni match right now.
Yeah, same here.
I think it's broken that their effects don't use up your action per counter.
Yep. It's really annoying that they could just do it 100 times too because they're dealing damage, getting damaged.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
Yeah.
From those good old green dragon shields.
And then you just Armoritis mode them and blow both of their monsters up.
See, I wish right now. I want to rant on Dragon World.
We could probably save that for another day, though.
Yo, Justin, you and me both. We ran on Dragon World. You know what? Next week, what do you think?
We could do Dragon World next week. I mean, it might take 6 or 7 different segments to get all of the hate from Dragon World. God,
I feel like we just get it all out at once. We do one giant group segment of just like 2 to 3 hours of just ranting on frustration with all of the things Dragon World gets.
Yes, that would be. Oh, that's because you have Armanoid as Moda.
I have everything I need. I have a green shield. I have movers.
Why can't we get a green shield? Legitimately speaking, why can't Hero World get a green shield?
I want a blue shield.
Hero World and Danger World both need a Solomon Shield clone.
Like,
why?
Because there's so many things that, like, you want to, like Mock Braver. You Mock Braver, you can't null it. There's nothing you can do once you call that Mock Braver to the center.
Yeah, because if you Mock Braver, I don't know. It gets really dumb, the timing of some of the effects. But here's what I would like. I would like. Well, I mean, I know I'm not going to see this, but I would like Hero World to get more support. And it's a thing of we're playing a game that's based on an anime, which means
now this video is going to get so many dislikes. Good job, Masood. Good job.
What?
You just said Hero World needs more support. After all of the support that just dropped.
You sound like Juan right now saying that Dragon World's not busting it up.
How many regionals were won with just Hero World decks?
Okay. All right.
Exactly.
So I guess I'm trying to look at the chat, but I don't see any questions yet. So maybe they'll get to us another time. But I think this is probably a good time to start wrapping it up. Maybe even letting guys say their last thoughts. So I mean, I'll start with Brian. If you have anything you want to say about the live stream, as I don't know, seemingly random, maybe a little bit focused as it was. Do you have any like comments you want to add about the Kaiserion, barbed wire, what it's done for you, what it's done for everybody else?
Naga solved all of Danger World's problems.
It what?
Naga solved all of Danger World's problems.
So he doesn't even care about barbed wire.
Barbed wire does nothing against Danger World. It does nothing for Danger World.
So it's not a big issue if someone barbed wires your weapon. It's just it's a very good shield.
If you barbed wire it, you'll stop 2 to 4 damage. You're still going to take 5 to 7. I don't care.
All right. So I guess now, Justin, do you have anything you want to say about our discussion?
Yeah, I want to say honestly, I have not beaten my Kaiserion deck at all with any of the decks that I play. Barbed wire has saved my life. I thank you, Bushiroad. I thank you, Barbed wire.
All right. Next, Alex, you got anything you want to say?
I feel like barbed wire does a lot of things that the game needed right now, not just against Kaiserion, but in general, because let's be honest, item-focused decks were getting really, really powerful. Honestly, like there are so many decks with items that are just insane. You know, I mean, we don't really think about it that much because the cost is so heavy, but Excalibur. You know, excuse me, you're not knowing this.
Yeah.
You know, and also not just against Hero World, but in general, I feel that also getting more generic support is great. Like in general, it's gonna be less efficient than than stuff that's for any specific world, but you can tech it in everything. You know, oh, your world doesn't have counter item destruction? Put a wolf in.
I'm a little shocked that it actually didn't cost 1 gauge either. It was just straight up free, like the generic barbed wire.
Okay, yeah, barbed wire. Well, the thing that it really boils down to is barbed wire doesn't actually destroy anything. All it does, it's a shield. It's really a shield. And
yeah, basically.
That's all it does. It is a shield.
Well, a shield being in the weird generic curve that everything seems to cost more than it should.
Yeah, and at the same time, like, if you're trying to build a straight generic world deck, what shields do you really have, as an option?
Whatever flag you're using.
Exactly. Now I know this isn't an issue in the anime, but in the manga, there were some villains who they used the generic world flag, and they played just generics. And so I feel like some of these things, like the battle deity robos, might be leftovers from some of the editions of the manga. So I'm really interested to see where they go with that.
All right. So I guess maybe leaving it off with me, saying thanks guys for tuning into our first live stream event. I know people wanted to jump in, but we're kind of keeping it a little tight knit for now, trying to get our Maryland crew here because we're a bunch of fighters that participate in the same meta, so it's kind of useful to kind of communicate what our meta's doing. Maybe people can come back to us, say how their meta's turning up. What's dominating right now? You can leave that in the comments. That'd be pretty sweet. But I think what the whole purpose behind some of these live stream events is that don't be discouraged from playing your favorite world because there are cards that are now considered hate. That just means that you got to take the opportunity to think a little bit differently about the deck that you've been using, maybe breathe some more life into it.
There's a competitive deck in every world right now.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's true.
That hasn't happened for quite a while, actually.
Yeah. Now,
so be excited. Be excited that not everybody's going to be playing Hero World. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, not gonna lie, it is. And maybe I'll get less hate for playing Hero World now because.
No, you still get all the hate.
Depends if you.
Like, in all honesty, for those of you who know me, know I got into this game to play Hero World. I heard
We
about
know.
That's what I'm here for. You know why I'm here.
OP, God.
Well, anyways, guys, I want to thank you for watching. I'm sure everyone wants to thank you for watching. I know Masood, is Team Horizon still a thing?
Yes, we haven't been updating recently because stuff happened. Yeah, time. And I'm moving right now. And once I finish moving and get situated, I'm actually kind of attempting to buy a house.
Cool.
Yay!
So I know Justin is from Team Justice League Swag.
What?
And I know Bran, if he ever finds time or motivation, he also has a channel. It's very small right now, but maybe look forward to it in the future. You have, I think, one video.
I think I have my old Armor Knight deck profile. Other than that, I have nothing.
Yeah.
Our little Bran Bow went off and made his own channel. So proud. So proud.
And then, of course, the Phantom 5th member, Mr. Juan Mango, who could not participate and yelling about how his not busted Dragon World is not good enough to fight against Hero World. But in spirit, we may talk about Dragon World
if he was
for
here,
like
this
ever.
would have taken another hour of arguing with him.
Probably. But anyways, guys, I'm going to end the stream. Thanks for watching. Add your comments, questions if you want us to answer questions in the future events. Thanks, guys.
You know